Ladies and gentlemen, I am really pleased to welcome you tonight for our 9th launch of the year from the Guiana Space Center. Tonight, Ariane-5 is set to deliver into a standard geostationary transfer orbit Intelsat 30 for Intelsat and DirecTV in the United States and ARSAT-1 for ARSAT in Argentina. Our launcher will be required a performance slightly above 10 tons and will have a window of 51 minutes to lift off, opening precisely at 9 p.m. Universal Time. The mission will last a little less than 34 minutes. I would like to thank Intelsat, global operator and fixed satellite services world leader, for entrusting Arianespace with the launch of this new satellite. Once on location at 95 degrees west, Intelsat 30 will mainly provide direct-to-home broadcast services over Latin America, the full capacity of the Ku-band payload being leased to DirecTV. I am also grateful to ARSAT, a new entrant and regional operator, for placing its confidence in Arianespace to launch its first space asset, obviously key to its future development. ARSAT-1 will provide a wide range of communication services from its orbital spot at 71.8 degrees over Argentina and its neighboring countries. It is also the first GeoComSat designed and manufactured in Argentina by INVAP in its plant of San Carlos de Bariloche in the north of Patagonia. Tonight, Arianespace is particularly proud to be in charge of a launch mission fully dedicated to serve satellite operators of the Americas, one global and well established on the market, Intelsat, one regional and newcomer on the market, ARSAT. This is for Arianespace a true recognition of the quality and competitiveness of our launch service, but also of our capacity to offer tailor-made solutions to our customers. But our 76th Ariane-5 is now being readied for launch, so enjoy the show.
Greetings, everybody, wherever you may be, and welcome once again to Kourou, the home of the Ariane family, for today's live broadcast of Arianespace flight number 220. Joshua Jampool here, coming to you from the Jupiter Mission Control Center at the Guiana Space Base. We'll be bringing you all the action live of this 9th launch of the year for Arianespace. The green status panels on the right show that all is green and go for this mission for the Americas, 2 satellites which will serve the New World, Intelsat 30 and ARSAT-1 for Argentina. As Ariane-5 waits on the pad for her moment in the sun, we can take a close look at her. She stands 54 meters tall. She's in 2 parts, a lower composite and an upper one. The lower composite includes the main core stage and the 2 boosters, so 3 power sources there. The boosters standing on either side are 31 meters tall. The upper component includes the single upper stage engine, also the vehicle equipment bay where the computers are, and the fairing, and inside the fairing are the 2 satellites. We'll describe each of the stages in detail while they're functioning so you can follow Ariane as well. Intelsat 30, global operator and old friend in the upper berth, will be separated first. ARSAT-1, our second customer, separated last, a regional operator and a new friend. Start of the countdown began this morning at 5:30. We're seeing the final moments of final countdown, a long procedure, making sure all is ready. Some of the key players who make the mission happen, starting with the Arianespace High Command. Stefan Israel, you saw, Chairman Chief Executive. Louis Laurent, Senior VP for Programs. Edward Perez, the top technical officer. And Patrick Loire heads up the Arianespace Kourou facilities here. These are the top 4. Should any problem arise during the countdown, they'll make the call as to what to do about it. First of several films coming up now. It's on Intelsat 30, and you'll be hearing from their spacecraft mission director.
The history between Arianespace and Intelsat goes back to 36 years ago, when Intelsat signed the very first launch contract with Ariane in 1978. That was more than 1 year before the first Ariane-1 launch. With the launching of Intelsat 30, which carried the DLA-1 payload for DirecTV, this will be the 54th Intelsat satellite to be launched by Ariane.
The satellite has completed its testing flawlessly, and the integration with the booster has gone very well also. Achieving this kind of success can only be attributed to the people involved and to the long-standing relationships we've developed over the years.
We are very familiar with the interfaces for the Space System Loral 1300 spacecraft bus. There was one of the Loral birds on the last launch, and there will be another one in the next following launch.
And you heard also from Christophe Bardou, Arianespace's program director. In the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you can see a red. Don't know what exactly, but we'll have news and bring it to you. It's ARSAT's turn now, and next film, a word from Ignacio Grossi of INVAP.
ARSAT is the first geostationary satellite designed, built and tested in Argentina by INVAP for ARSAT. It will bring telecommunication, data transmission, telephone and television services over Argentina and limiting countries.
ARSAT-1 is an important step for Argentina. Arianespace and its partners are proud to bring their contribution to such a project for a new satellite operator and a new satellite platform.
INVAP is very pleased to say that this, our first launch campaign at CSG, was carried out very smoothly.
We are really looking forward to repeating the same smooth process for ARSAT-2, a launch planned next year.
We thank all the support received from both NES and Arianespace all along these 45 very intense days.
Working with ARSAT and INVAP teams throughout the life of the project has been a real pleasure. And I want to thank the teams here in Kourou, Benavides and San Carlos de Bariloche for their remarkable level of professionalism and competence.
We're approaching a key moment in the launch countdown, the synchronized sequence at 7 minutes. You'll hear the DDO, this man, call out the 7-minute mark.
À tous de DDO, arrêt des comptes suite à un rouge météo. Que tous les moyens restent prêts pour la reprise de la chronologie à H0-7 minutes en cas de retour au vert des conditions météo. Prochain point météo prévu à 18h20 local.
All right, so that's what the red was. There is, as announced by the DDO, seems to be there could be a slight weather problem. So you see that we are holding in the countdown. Normally, at -7 minutes, we enter into what is called the synchronized sequence, which are the final moments of the final countdown. But apparently, there's something in the weather. There you see on the left the green status panels. You see just on the bottom there, Meteo, the red bar. That's weather. We'll give you an explanation of the status panels in just a minute. But we are holding at 7 minutes. When we have a red, now it's something unexpected. Of course, you control a lot of systems here, but you can't control the weather. When we get something unexpected, it's like a stop sign. And there you see on the status panels, you see on the top there, authorization to launch. You see that's red, that's not green. We have to be green to launch. And then third bar from the bottom is Meteo, that's the weather. With these status panels, they are a summary of all the systems we need to launch, and green means they're okay, red means the opposite, of course. So as I was saying, we get a red, like a stop sign. You stop and you think. People begin to examine the unexpected parameter. That's what's going on now. And for later on, people here at the space base and in other spots are beginning to examine how to eventually move back into the launch window. So these two things are going on. The launch window tonight when we opened was 51 minutes. It's plenty of time. That's a standard launch window. No, actually the standard window is about 45 minutes, so we have a little longer than the standard window. So this is there's a whole logic to REDs here at the space base. They're the same for, the logic is the same for everyone, for the satellite, for the launcher, for the downrange stations, for the safety people, for the telemetry people. A RED is actually a normal option. All that to say is when a RED appears, it's something that's been prepared and planned. So there's no reason to panic. It's all been foreseen. It's part of the problem. You can see on the bottom of the screen the crawl temporary hold in the countdown. We don't know for how long. A weather problem has been announced. We don't know what kind of a weather problem. But we'll let you go. We'll go and see if we can get some more information. And we'll be back when we have some more. We're holding, if you just joined us, we're holding in the countdown because of an announced weather problem. But we have a long launch window tonight, at least 45, 50 minutes left. So we'll be back with more a little later on for Arianespace flight number 220. Don't go away.
À tous de DDO, retour au vert du satellite Intelsat 30 DLA-1. Attention pour la reprise du temps des comptes. Top. Début de la séquence finale lanceur.
Well, we are back after a
Le
delay
nouvel
of
H0 visé
roughly 40 minutes.
21h43 minutes 45 secondes TU.
DDO just announced a new H0, 21 minutes 43 seconds. So you saw the different bars switching from green to red and then back again. All is well now. And we're going to go to a film on the launcher campaign. Most of the elements that make up the Ariane 5 come to the space base by ship from Europe. They then travel by road to the space base and their assembly begins in the launcher integration building. Here the main or lower stage is erected vertically. The two solid boosters, which are made here in French Guiana, are transported to this building for positioning on either side of the main stage. Then the upper stage is integrated onto the lower stage, and at this point Ariane is moved to the final assembly building. The satellites arrive by plane. ARSAT-1 came on September 1st and Intelsat on September 10th. Their preparation began in facilities not far from the launch pad, specially dedicated to satellite operations. Satellite preparations are carried out in parallel with assembly of the launch vehicle. Their preparation includes weighing and testing by special teams in clean rooms. All their systems are checked, everything from electric cables to solar panels. With these tests completed, at the end of September, they were filled with the fuel they'll need for their lives in space. Meanwhile, Arianespace and customer teams meet on a daily basis to review ongoing activities and set plans for the coming days. In all, campaigns usually take around 6 weeks to ready both launcher and satellites. When filled, the satellites move to the final assembly building. Here they're mated atop the launcher. ARSAT-1 was put in place first in the lower position. Intelsat 30 was enclosed inside the fairing, and this composite was then hoisted atop the launcher above ARSAT-1. A launch readiness review meeting gives the green light for the launcher to be rolled out on the rail track to its position on the pad. This occurs the day before launch. Ariane 5 is ready. Now fixed to the launch table, she makes her way slowly to her position where she will await the final countdown before her mission begins. Gives you an idea of some of the very complex procedures that must be carried out for each launch. The space base covers a lot of ground and a lot goes on here. Activities can be summed up by these status panels on the right. They are a go, no-go, green, red resume of everything it takes to successfully prepare, launch, and follow Ariane. Green means okay, red means the opposite, very simple, as you saw If we get a red in any of these areas, we stop the countdown, fix the problem. And we check the panels during the first part of the mission before lifting off. And they have to be green to give a go, and you can see that's the case again. One place that's very busy tonight, aside from here in Jupiter, is the Launch Control Center, where the launch management teams are working under the direction of the Launch Operations Manager, this man, Jean-Pierre Barlet, tonight. 1,500 people in all, roughly, around the space base, about 100 of them up here, comprising 3 teams working together. One team responsible for the launch operations, a second for flight readiness of the launch vehicle, and a third following the countdown from a quality point of view, according to the well-established procedures here. The teams are closer to the pad than we are here in Jupiter. We're about 13 kilometers away, but they're about 1 kilometer. They're right there. And their control center that you're looking at has walls that are a meter thick. It's a real bunker. Their work consists of all the checks and all the validations taking us down to liftoff that will let the mission begin once the launcher has left the pad. Their work is done. See the raindrops on the camera up there? That's right at the launch base. Other things you have to take into account when launching. A French Space Operations Act of 2008 makes it mandatory now to show you are preventing any collision with the ISS, the International Space Station. ISS flies roughly 400 kilometers above, makes a pass around the Earth every 90 minutes or so. So if their flight path is in Ariane's projected flight path, our launch window is changed. But, of course, that's not the case tonight. The yellow bars in the middle of the launch vehicle, very important. They are the propellant feeder arms. What they're doing right now is they're putting propellant into the upper stage tanks. This is a split-screen shot of the yellow bars. Liquid hydrogen lines on the left, liquid oxygen on the right. It's one of the last things you're going to see before liftoff, so we'd just like to take a minute to explain. The arms at -5 seconds will pull back. And those yellow bars, they'll pull back at -5 seconds, and that begins the final ignition sequence. About a minute and a half to go before our mission begins. Ariane-5 carrying Intelsat 30 and ARSAT-1. Want to say hi to our friends at Intelsat, taking the broadcast in Washington, D.C., in the U.S., and to all our friends at ARSAT, listening to us in Buenos Aires, as well as to our industrial partners in Europe and around the world. Hope you're all enjoying the evening.
À tous de DDO. Attention pour -1 minute.
The DDO is going to call out the 1-minute mark.
Top. H0 -1 minute.
Final 60 seconds. What's left to explain? Well, it's the final ignition sequence. It starts when those cryogenic arms, the yellow bars, pull back. That gets the ball rolling. Here's what to watch for. At H0, the DDO will call out allumage volcan. He might say something similar. It's his first time tonight as a DDO. Allumage volcan means ignition of the main stage. Cryogenic engine, but we don't lift off yet. There will be a 7-second wait while the onboard computer is checking the performance of the main engine. They check it before Ariane leaves the pad. If all is well, then the computer gives the order to light the 2 boosters, and off we go. We'll let you watch liftoff of Arianespace flight number 220.
À tous de DDO. Attention pour le décompte final.
Final countdown.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top. Allumage Vulcain. Allumage UAP, décollage. Tous les paramètres à bord sont normaux. Fin de la manœuvre de basculement.
So, did you watch the arms pull back right on time? We had ignition. You saw Ariane-5 begin her mission rising off the ground here in French Guiana with a lot of fire, right on time, carrying Intelsat 30 and ARSAT-1. The DDO is saying that all is well on board. We're underway. The boosters providing over 90% of the thrust right now, propelling the launcher along its trajectory at an ever-increasing velocity, getting her away from the pull of the Earth. And there's a lot to pull away because Ariane's weight at liftoff is 775 tons. She's burning now 5 tons of fuel per second. That's right, per second. 2.5 tons in each booster. And the core stage burning another 300 kilos per second. Ariane following the flight program in our onboard computer, which will give all the commands, such as separation of the stages. We'll soon begin to see those. We are in the first of 4 flight phases. The first 3 are powered. The last is not. We'll describe each in turn so you can follow Ariane as she heads across the Atlantic. The DDO continuing to call out all as well on board. Right now we're in the first flight phase. The main stage engine and the 2 boosters burning. The boosters will burn their propellant in just under 2.5 minutes, and they're the first that we jettison. You'll hear the DDO call out that milestone as well. We're heading east out over the Atlantic. The decision to build the site here in French Guiana made in the 1960s when France wanted a new base, in part the decision made for its opening on the water to allow for launches over uninhabited areas. On the bottom, our speed and altitude. Our speed on the right, you can see the booster separation right on time. Our speed at orbital injection, 9 kilometers per second roughly. We're at 2 kilometers per second, so watch the numbers. You'll know where we are. The onboard computer detecting that there's no more fuel in the booster tanks. So the thrust decreases and the computer senses the drop and decides to separate the boosters. Next up is fairing separation. The boosters separated at 67 kilometers altitude. On the left, on the bottom, our altitude. Sometimes the figure is not the one you see. That's quite normal. It's because of a slight delay or lag in the telemetry coming in here. In about 10 seconds will be the separation of the fairing. You'll see that on the animation there. There it is. Separation given by 2 pyrotechnic systems. There's an onboard camera. We'll show you how that is. That's, you see one of the halves blown away on one side, the other out of camera range. The camera's not on board tonight. This is from an earlier flight, but the system is exactly the same. The 2 cords remove the fairing by a small contained explosion, actually. It's important to emphasize that the explosion is controlled, no threat to the vehicle. We can separate the fairing now because we're out of the dense layers of the atmosphere. Over 100 kilometers, neither friction nor heating. We can discard any dead weight now when possible to maximize the launcher's operation. You see up in the right-hand corner of your screen, the cursor crawling up the curve. There are actually 2 lines. One is the optimum flight path, and the other is the actual flight path, as long as the one is superimposed on the other. We're right where we should be. Shot of the Earth on the left with our downrange tracking stations. We'll have a word on those as they come up. We're in the second powered flight phase. The boosters have done their job. Only the single engine burning now. It'll burn for about 9 minutes in all. Speed is important right now, and that's the role of the main stage. Its cryogenic propellant system is not only highly efficient, but provides a push that can last a long time, because the first stage has to burn for 9 minutes in all. Different propulsion systems used on Ariane 5. The cryogenics used in the main stage are more efficient than the solid propellant, which was used in the boosters. Basically, solids are for getting us off the ground, away from the pull of the Earth, raw power, while cryogenics offer more precision orienting of the vehicle. And, of course, they allow the stage to be reignited. That's in another version of Ariane, not tonight's. Been a busy year for Arianespace. We've launched 9 times. Going to a replay of the launch. Always exciting to relive those moments of liftoff that happened 5.5 minutes ago. We have cameras at several of the half-dozen observation sites that are stationed across the base. So we get views from different sites.
Il reste moins de 3 minutes de propulsion de l'étage principal cryotechnique.
3 minutes left in the lower stage burn. think we have another replay from another site. There we are. Nice shots. We should have more shots at the end of the broadcast. We have cameras all over, as I mentioned. It's a big base, 750 square kilometers, roughly the size of the island of Martinique, our neighbor. All continues to function perfectly on board Ariane, as you can see on the screen. In a moment, Ariane's radar and telemetry signal will be picked up by our first downrange tracking station. That station is over the border in Brazil, in a place called Natal. Tous les paramètres à bord sont normaux. La trajectoire est normale. Ariane-5, of course, the heavy lift launcher. The two other members of the family, Soyuz, lifting middle-sized payloads, 2 and 3 tons, and Vega, the light lift vehicle for missions of 1 ton. There they are, ARSAT people. Big night for Argentina, of course, with their first home-built satellite. We mentioned our downrange tracking stations. The first station just picked us up over the border in Brazil, Natal. We'll see the lower stage burnout and separation, as well as the upper stage ignition. All of Arianespace's trajectory has been designed to be followed from the ground. You see Natal over there in Brazil, and you see our trajectory out in the Atlantic above that. The launcher is sending radar and telemetry back in a network of stations, beginning with Natal, keeping constant watch on the health of our systems. Telemetry is the launch vehicle data, information on well over 1,000 parameters being collected and transmitted back to the ground stations every second. These include indicators of Ariane's health and performance in flight. They come from sensors, pressure sensors, temperature sensors, which record all her functions throughout the flight. And what do we do with this information, you may be asking? Well, some of it is analyzed in real time. Customers also get some immediate information about their spacecraft, which is very useful. Other data are analyzed after the flight to learn how the vehicle has performed. There's a complete analysis that is carried out a week after the launch. We've just had the cutoff of the lower stage, and you see its separation, and there's the ignition of the upper stage. Everything right on time. These 3 commands given by the onboard computer in about 12 seconds. The main stage falls back into the Atlantic off the coast of Africa. Up in space, all is well on board Ariane. Our speed coming up to 7 kilometers per second. Our altitude, you see, 170 kilometers. We're now in the 3rd and final powered flight phase. 16-minute burn for the upper stage. It'll burn until 24 minutes and 49 seconds. 3 numbers you might want to keep in mind. The first one, 24 minutes and 49 seconds, extinction of the upper stage. Then at plus 27 minutes and 51 seconds, separation of our first passenger, Intelsat 30. And then at 33 minutes and 42 seconds, separation of ARSAT-1. These 2 satellites are the 307th and the 308th to go into geostationary transfer orbit using the Ariane family of launchers. They are the 118th and the 119th using an Ariane 5 to get them there. You see the mothership. You're looking right at Intelsat 30 with the fairing gone. She's now exposed to the elements. More of the mission in a moment, but first a look at Intelsat 30 and its builder, SS Loral.
SSL, a leader in satellite manufacturing with more commercial capacity on orbit than any other manufacturer, built Intelsat 30, a powerful satellite for broadcast services in Latin America. With high-precision antennas, the Intelsat 30 satellite will provide services to DirecTV Latin America via its custom-built DLA-1 payload, expanding its direct-to-home offering to the region. The 20-kilowatt C and Ku band satellite also enhances Intelsat's C-band services for Latin America. Based on SSL's powerful 1300 platform, the satellite will be positioned at 95 degrees west longitude, where it will be co-located with Intelsat's Galaxy 3C. Intelsat and SSL have more than 4 decades' experience working together. This kind of teamwork and experience helps SSL provide exceptional satellites like Intelsat 30. SSL thanks Intelsat, DirecTV, Arianespace, and the hundreds of engineers, managers, and technicians who worked many long hours to help make this satellite a success.
Hello, I'm Dave McLeod, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Intelsat. This is an exciting time for Intelsat, with Intelsat 30 representing the first of 4 satellites launching by the end of 2015. Intelsat 30 will provide services to DirecTV Latin America, one of our most strategic customers and the region's premier provider of direct-to-home services. Overall, our work with DirecTV on the custom-built DLA-1 payload demonstrates our commitment to support the growth objectives of our customers, the world's leading media and communications companies. Intelsat 30 enhances the strength of Intelsat's video satellite neighborhoods, serving Latin America. Intelsat 31, the Intelsat 30 backup, and Intelsat 34, also built by SSL, will join our Latin America neighborhood over the course of the next year. Best of luck to our partners SSL and Arianespace and the Intelsat mission team. We absolutely appreciate your hard work on our behalf. Lastly, thank you to DirecTV Latin America for your trust and partnership on the Intelsat 30 and 31 programs.
Intelsat before tonight already had 14 satellites serving Latin America. While you were watching that film, we were picked up by our next downrange tracking station, Ascension Island, tiny island, 10 square kilometers out in the middle of the Atlantic. The stations sometimes have a brief telemetry loss due to the launcher's position. This is quite normal. We don't lose the information because it's stored on board. How? Well, in the vehicle equipment bay is something called the central telemetry unit, and inside that something called mass memory. The exact times and durations of the signal loss are programmed into the unit. The unit is programmed to record the data it would normally be sending down to the ground. It's also programmed to start sending these data when the signal has returned. Mention this because we had one loss before being picked up by Ascension Island, 109 seconds. There'll be another later on for 58 seconds. Again, all perfectly normal and part of the flight procedure. 2 films coming up on what happens to the satellites after separation. The first on Intelsat 30.
This will be a unique LEOP mission for Intelsat because we'll be using our Mission Control Center in Long Beach this time instead of our historical control center in Washington, D.C. As many of you may know, we relocated our headquarters to McLean, Virginia, which now has a state-of-the-art satellite operations center. But during this transition, we had the possibility of overlapping with this launch, so we prepared our Long Beach facility for this mission. The team is very well prepared to do that. So after separation, we'll acquire the satellite from our ground station in Gunungara, Australia. Then we'll prepare the bipropellant system and deploy the solar panels. Then we'll begin a series of apogee motor firings to place the satellite into its test orbit at 132 degrees west. And then we'll deploy our reflectors, other appendages, and begin testing the spacecraft and the payload. Once that's completed, we'll perform a maneuver to drift to our final orbital slot at 95 degrees west. So all in all, we expect to be providing service to our customers about 38 days after the launch. Thank you.
Intelsat, established in 1964, set up the first global commercial satellite communications system. Intelsat-1, also called Early Bird, if you're old enough like I am to remember, launched in 1965, the first commercial communication satellite. Arianespace and Intelsat old friends, we've launched 53 satellites for Intelsat. We have already launched also 5 DirecTV satellites, DirecTV-1 in 1993, number 3 in 95, 4S 2001, Spaceway 2 2005, and 9S in 2006. And DirecTV has signed with Arianespace for 3 more. DirecTV 14 is being readied right here in Kourou for launch in December. DirecTV 15 and Sky Mexico set to go next year. This contract, signed in 2011, the satellite will be operated by Intelsat, which will provide the complete Ku-band capacity to DirecTV Latin America. This Ku-band payload counts 72 transponders. There are an additional 10 C-band transponders that Intelsat's going to use. Satellite built, as we mentioned, by SS Loral. Arianespace has worked with both companies for over 30 years. We first launched for Intelsat in 1983. That was Intelsat 5F7, launched on an Ariane-1, weighed 1.8 tons, compared with the over 6 tons tonight. The Ariane program began in 1996. Double launches are its specialty. Tonight's no exception. Intelsat 30 and ARSAT-1, global operator and a regional operator. You can learn more about our second passenger, ARSAT-1, in our next film coming up. Back with more in a minute.
ARSAT-1 es el primer satélite argentino de telecomunicaciones. El ARSAT-1 se ubicará a los 71 grados 8 de longitud oeste. Tiene una carga útil de 24 transpondedores en banda Q. Cuenta con una antena de comunicaciones single shell de 2 metros de diámetro. Su área de servicio será la Argentina y países limítrofes. Su suma total de lanzamiento es de 3 toneladas. ARSAT es la empresa de telecomunicaciones del Estado Nacional responsable de desarrollar el sistema satelital geoestacionario argentino de telecomunicaciones. Tuvo a cargo la especificación del satélite y la supervisión de todo el proyecto. Por su parte, INVAP es la empresa estatal de alta tecnología de la provincia de Río Negro, encargada del diseño y desarrollo del satélite. El ARSAT-1 se ensayó en el Centro de Ensayos de Alta Tecnología de ARSAT e INVAP. Desde la estación terrena Benavides de ARSAT, personal de ARSAT e INVAP dirigirán la puesta en órbita del satélite. Con el ARSAT-1 será la primera vez que un país latinoamericano diseña y desarrolla un satélite geo, dirige su puesta en órbita y explota el servicio sin intermediarios. El ARSAT-1 es el primer satélite del sistema satelital geoestacionario argentino de telecomunicaciones que busca ocupar con satélites propios las posiciones orbitales que fueron asignadas a la Argentina, incrementar las capacidades del país en materia de telecomunicaciones, impulsar el desarrollo de la industria espacial local. El diseño de huella del ARSAT-1, que concentra su potencia máxima sobre el territorio argentino, permitirá brindar conectividad de igual calidad a todas las regiones del país, desde La Quiaca hasta el extremo austral, colaborando con las políticas públicas del Estado argentino que sigue impulsando la reducción de la brecha digital. Independencia y desarrollo tecnológico. Eso también es dar impulso a un país. Presidencia de la Nación.
An important milestone for the nation of Argentina. Arianespace proud to help make it happen. ARSAT-1 is the first in a series of satellites that will give the nation its own space communication systems. Representatives from their government and a lot of press are on hand to witness the big event. We're happy to see them all. We're told that thousands of Argentines were at the airport at Bariloche to see ARSAT-1 off for Kourou, which was something nobody expected. ARSAT-1, the first satellite launched by Arianespace for ARSAT, the national communications company, and the second for Argentina after Nahuatl 1A in 1997. ARSAT, founded in 2006. This contract signed 4 years later. ARSAT-1 will be providing data, phone, and direct-to-home TV service for Argentina and her neighbors, Chile, Uruguay, and Paraguay. The satellite built, designed in South America, launched from South America for South America. ARSAT-1 is the first satellites to be built in Argentina to specifications devised by ARSAT. Responsible for overall design and integration was INVAP, the state applied research arm. They're based in San Carlos de Bariloche. We are now being followed by our next tracking station that's in Libreville in Gabon, the west coast of Africa. A word on ARSAT-1 and its first maneuvers after separation from Andres Rodriguez, the spacecraft mission director.
After its separation from Ariane-5 launcher, ARSAT-1 satellite, the first telecommunications satellite designed, integrated, and tested in Argentina, will start its LEO phase, which main objective is to bring ARSAT-1 to the geo-orbit. During this phase, several ground stations distributed in the world will route the satellite telemetry to ARSAT Mission Control Center in Benavides, Argentina, where ARSAT and INVAP operational and engineering team will execute a set of procedures, and after 5 apogee maneuvers that will take around 10 days, the satellite will be ready to start the in-orbit test activities. These tests are performed in order to demonstrate that all requirements established by ARSAT are met in orbit. After in-orbit test, ARSAT-1 will be ready to start providing telecommunication services in KU band in Argentina and neighboring countries. With the best power and coverage of a satellite in this region, ARSAT wants to thank Arianespace and our subcontractors for their support to our project. ARSAT and INVAP technical team has demonstrated a great commitment and professionalism throughout our project. You are the best guys. Good job.
Good job indeed. Less than 2 minutes left in the upper stage burn. While you were watching, we had acquisition of our final tracking station in Malindi on the east coast of Africa in Kenya. This station will see the upper stage burn out and both satellite separations and the end of the Ariane mission. The ARSAT fleet will comprise 3 satellites, all to be launched by Ariane. ARSAT-2 due to go next year, ARSAT-3 later on. No date yet. Arianespace and ARSAT have been cooperating for the last 6 years on the project. In a wider context, Arianespace has launched 15 satellites for Latin American operators. That's nearly 60% of the current operating fleet. They include 9 for Brazil, 1 for Argentina, 5 for Mexico, and 5 more are in the manifest because of an ever-growing need for satellite services. And with 600 million people in Central and South America, you can understand a big market out there for satellite operators. The needs can only increase, especially with the Rio Olympics coming up in 2006. Experts say that by 2017, Latin America should have nearly 100 telecom satellites flying. And Arianespace, of course, very pleased to continue serving the Latin American continent. Argentina, one of the leaders in Latin American space, its research activities date back to 1960. They launched the first satellite in 1990. A 10-kilometer affair for ham radio enthusiasts on board Ariane-4, and I think it's still in use. We have had cutoff of the upper stage engine right on time. We are now sailing without power. The powered flight phase of the upper stage ends when the onboard computer judges that the targeted orbit has been attained. So we're in the final flight phase and we're coasting with no more power. What's happening? Well, a lot. The upper composite is now beginning a series of maneuvers to reach the different positions from where it can release the satellites. The upper stage has a dual role, propulsion and ballistics. With the propulsion job over, it's carrying out its second job now. The composite, you can see on the right, in the middle of the right-hand side of your screen, all that's left of the original 775 tons, 2 satellites weighing roughly 9 tons, some adapters, the Silda, which is a carrying structure for the second satellite, and the vehicle equipment bay, maybe another ton there, so about 10 tons down from originally 775 tons. We're coasting, but that doesn't mean that nothing is happening. The composite is being maneuvered and spun in a series of a dozen operations, ranging in time from half a second to over 2 minutes. Using small thrusters, you can see just at the top of the vehicle there, popping on and off. They have quite a job to do. What they must do is orient the composite in the direction and altitude required by the first satellite, then separate it. Then they must start a second series of moves to orient and separate the Silda. The Silda is the black structure you see in the middle. That's a carrying structure, and underneath that is ARSAT-1.
Tous les paramètres à bord sont normaux.
All is well on board, says the DDO. And they have to do the same a third time for the lower passenger. Intelsat 30 will be separated at 1,000 kilometers up, the Silda at 1,800 kilometers, ARSAT at 2,200 kilometers, I should say. All this done in part also to keep the satellites and Silda from colliding with each other. All these movements they call a space ballet in the trade, not a bad term. Ariane 5, as you see, has reached her maximum speed. And by the time she separates Intelsat 30 in about 20 seconds, she'll be moving at just over 9 kilometers per second, and that will drop. In a moment, we'll have confirmation of separation of our first passenger, Intelsat 30, 27 minutes and 50 seconds. Always a moment of high concentration here.
Séparation de Intelsat 30 DLA1.
There we are. The DDO has just called out the first good news, successful delivery of our upper passenger. Handshake there between Intelsat and Arianespace. Intelsat 30 been separated over the east coast of Africa. You see in the hall the folks very politely holding their applause until the second passenger has been released. You see she's beginning life pushed away from the mothership. That happens by a series of springs. There are about 8 of them. And she'll make her way up in a week to her orbital slot. What's left now is the white band down there. That's the vehicle equipment bay. On top of that is the Silda. That's the black bit. And we're going to release that in just a moment. You heard Todd Shilb say Intelsat using its Long Beach, California control center instead of Washington, D.C. for the early orbit phase. Australia gets the signal first, Nyangara. Solar panel array deployment due in 3 hours. And the apogee motor firing the first one tomorrow. There will be a second, third, fourth coming on third, fourth, and 6 days. In 35, 38 days, she'll be ready for service. Quiz question while we're waiting. We mentioned Intelsat 30 is the 6th DirecTV satellite launched by Ariane. The others, DirecTV 1, DBS 3, DirecTV 4, Spaceway 2, all these others launched between 1993 and 2006. Some were double launches, but not all. Here's the quiz question. Of the 5 DirecTV satellites launched by Ariane, which were delivered on solo launches? See if anybody at Intelsat can get this. Give the answer in a minute. First, we promised you a look at another center of action. This is the CVI, or the Immediate Visual Control Center. It's a facility south of the space base, high on a hill with excellent visibility. One of the reasons the Kourou site was chosen, you need hills near the launch site where radar and telemetry facilities can be installed so we can follow the launcher during her trajectory, as we've been talking about with the ground stations. Here, the CVI has all the means for receiving, processing, and storing the data that's being transmitted by Ariane to the ground. And right now, the people you saw are following and analyzing the key flight data.
Tous les paramètres à bord sont normaux.
They report Ariane's flight status to the team back here in Kourou. If you just joined us, we've had successful separation of our first passenger, Intelsat 30. Waiting now for the next step, separation of the Silda, due at 31 minutes and 53 seconds, just in about a minute. We're still in the space ballet. We're in the pointing up phase required by the Silda for its separation. You see her moving along there. Remember, the Silda is the carrying structure that allows us to lift a second passenger. We've used the Silda, or an earlier form of it, well over 100 times in the Ariane program, because double launches are the Ariane specialty. 6 versions of it in varying sizes. This one measures just under 6 meters tall. The first part of the ballistics phase, the Space Ballet, terminates with release of our second satellite, ARSAT-1, due for separation in 2 minutes, 33 minutes and 42 seconds. We launched, as you saw, from the Guyana Space Center for the 232nd time since it opened for business in 1964. The CSG celebrating 50 years this year. A lot of milestones for the space industries have happened here and continue to happen, not only for Europe, but internationally. Tonight's launch is an example of that. We're waiting for SILDA separation now. You hear the DDO, and you'll see on the animation. There it is. You see the black structure pushed away, and the DDO confirming it. It's pushed away from the mothership by the series of springs, the same system as for the satellites. You see ARSAT-1 now exposed to the elements. The SILDA has been separated over the Indian Ocean, as will ARSAT-1. Something we won't see called passivation, but it's worth a mention. It's the second part of the ballistics phase. Passivation, or depressurizing, empties whatever fuel remains in the Ariane 5 tanks. Takes about an hour to do that. The valves are kept open to clean the tanks in the upper stage so it'll quietly burn up during its re-entry in the atmosphere. And this occurs at about 3,000 kilometers up, well above the satellites. Before that, however, we're awaiting confirmation of separation of our second passenger, ARSAT-1, coming up in just 49 seconds. Again, this is one of these moments of high concentration for everybody here. Tonight represents months, years, I should say, not months, years of work for some of the people here. The mood here in Jupiter, as you can see by Mr. Rodriguez, very focused, I think is the word. Although most of the people have gone through this before, it's still an intense time. The first satellite has been separated, so its teams are already at work on the first operations. The ARSAT teams are still very concentrated, very focused, and they will be until their separation has been confirmed, and we're awaiting the DDO's confirmation.
Séparation du satellite ARSAT-1.
And there you have it. Some happy people down in a very crowded Jupiter Mission Control Room. The smiles all around. The final good news, Ariane 5 has successfully separated her second passenger, ARSAT-1, and right on target, 2,268 kilometers up. So from the tense minutes just moments ago, you can see the change here in Jupiter, very buoyant, hugs, smiles all around, all across the Space Center, and at all the points and posts where people are following the launcher and the satellite. Work is just beginning, or soon will be, at the different ground stations for ARSAT-1 and at the other sites around the world where the satellite's first maneuvers are being monitored. Cigars, champagne, all that is on the horizon for everybody here. As with ARSAT-1, Argentina joins the other 7 nations in the world capable of building geostationary satellites of this size. The other players in the club, the US, Russia, China, India, Japan, Israel, and Europe. You see ARSAT-1 being pushed away from the mothership just like Intelsat 30. The launch and early orbit phase of ARSAT-1 will be performed by both ARSAT and INVAP people from the ARSAT ground station at Benavidez. And it's the first time, we want to mention, the first time a Latin American country will run an operation of this kind. Acquisition will be by Urala, that's the Australian station, also the Korean station at Kumsan. We're going to go to a launch replay again, perhaps a series of them. Happy Argentine people. On the left, Mr. Rodriguez, you heard him say that there will be 5 apogee motor firings in 10 days. Then solar array and reflector deployment will take place on ARSAT-1's 10th day out and begin its in-orbit testing, which will last about a month. We're waiting for the speeches now. We'll have our traditional post-launch speeches. There'll be a few of them. While we're waiting, did you get the answer to the quiz question? Of the 5 previous DirecTV satellites launched by Ariane between 1993 and 2006, which were solo launches? Anybody at Intelsat, DirecTV get this one? The answer, there were 2. DBS-3, launched in June 1995, Ariane's Flight 74, weighed 2.9 tons, went up on an Ariane 4, and DirecTV 4S in November of 2001, also on an Ariane 4, Flight 146, weighed 4.3 tons. The answers were DirecTV 3 and 4S. If you could name either one of those missions, you can give yourself a round of applause. They're giving themselves a round of applause. You can join them, and you get to watch a launch replay, another one, which will be coming right up. But before that, the post-launch speeches. Stefan Israel is near the podium. He will be speaking. We'll be hearing from him. We'll be hearing from Ken Lee, Senior Vice President for Space Systems at Intelsat. We'll be hearing from our friends from Argentina. Matthias Bianchi, President of ARSAT, I believe, will be speaking. Norberto Berner, Argentina's Secretary of State for Telecommunications, will be speaking also. Julio De Vido, Argentina's Minister for Federal Planning. I believe we'll also hear from Navid Motamed, Senior Director, Communication Systems for DirecTV. Jean-Yves Le Gall, CNES President. And also from France's Minister for Research, Education and Higher Learning, who's here, Najat Vallaud-Belkacem. And we'll be hearing from Stefan Israel again to wrap things up. These people present today will be making their ways out from the fishbowl to join us in Jupiter.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Stefan Israel.
Donc, Madame la Ministre.
Stefan Israel trying to speak, and we're getting him set
Madame
up.
la Ministre, Monsieur le Ministre, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur,
Madam Minister, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, el sistema de telemedición de Ariane-5 acaba de confirmar que la separación se produjo.
Constituera donc un nouveau succès pour Ariane 5, le 62e d'affilée. Alors évidemment, vous le voyez ce soir, il y a beaucoup d'émotions, et je dirais qu'il y a beaucoup d'émotions pour 4 raisons. La première, c'est que c'est un lancement depuis l'Amérique pour l'Amérique. C'est un lancement depuis la Guyane française pour le continent américain, et en particulier pour l'Amérique latine, puisque ces 2 satellites vont desservir l'Amérique latine, et que Arianespace, au-delà de cette base exceptionnelle de lancement de Guyane, a toujours eu sur le continent américain des parts de marché supérieures à 50%. La deuxième raison d'être ému ce soir, c'est que Intelsat est un ami de plus de 30 ans d'Arianespace. Intelsat est le leader mondial des opérateurs de satellites et il a confié déjà 54 satellites lancés par Arianespace. Nous en avons 5 autres dans notre carnet de commandes. Cette aventure a commencé il y a 31 ans et Intelsat est donc le premier client commercial d'Arianespace. Therefore, I want to deeply thank Mr. David McLeod, Intelsat Chairman and CEO, for his trust, and Mr. Ken Lee, Senior Vice President, who is honoring us by his presence here tonight. The challenge for Arianespace now is to have Dave McLeod with us in the CSG. So we have 5 more opportunities to come, and I hope Dave will be with us for one of these opportunities. La charge utile d'Intelsat 30 fournira des services de télécommunications pour le compte d'un autre opérateur américain, qui est aussi un fidèle client d'Arianespace, DirecTV, et j'aimerais aussi l'en remercier. Nos félicitations s'adressent évidemment à Space System Loral, le fabricant d'Intelsat 30. Nous avons avec Space System Loral un partenariat qui représente déjà 45 missions, et nous avons encore 12 autres satellites à lancer qui seront construits par Loral. Alors, la troisième raison d'être ému, c'est évidemment ARSAT, c'est évidemment l'Argentine. C'est un motif de fierté pour vous, ARSAT, et pour toute la nation argentine.
En position basse sur ce vol, ARSAT-1 est le premier satellite lancé par Arianespace pour ARSAT. C'est aussi le premier satellite de télécommunications géostationnaire entièrement argentin, puisque ARSAT-1 a été construit par l'INVAP, dans son usine de Bariloche, au nord de la Patagonie. Arianespace est évidemment très fier de contribuer à cet événement majeur pour l'Argentine, qui entre aujourd'hui dans le club restreint et prestigieux des pays qui ont la capacité de produire des satellites de télécommunications géostationnaires. Je tiens à exprimer ma gratitude à ARSAT et à son président, Mathias Bianchi, pour avoir confié son premier satellite à Arianespace. Mathias del Fondo del Alma, muchas gracias. Félicitations également à l'INVAP, représenté ce soir par Horacio Augusto Ozuna, pour cette réussite technique. Et il n'y a guère de plus grand honneur pour Arianespace que d'accueillir sur le site de Kourou une délégation gouvernementale d'aussi haut niveau, avec ce soir la présence du ministre Julio De Vido, et d'avoir l'attention même de votre présidente, puisque je crois qu'elle a accordé une attention tout à fait directe à cet événement. Alors, faisant écho aux propres mots d'Evita Perón, dont nous savons à quel point c'est une figure emblématique pour l'Argentine, j'aimerais dire quelques mots en espagnol. Yo quisiera que la trayectoria del vuelo de esta noche sea como un arco iris entre nuestros dos países. Bien, je voudrais aussi féliciter toutes celles et tous ceux qui, en Europe ou ici au Centre spatial
those in Europe or in French Guiana who made this 60-second success possible. I'm talking about our prime, Airbus Defence and Space. I'm also talking about the SCNES and the CSG, our partners, and I'm also talking about the teams of Arianespace, the operational and commercial teams. And the last reason for being very emotional is because tonight we are lucky to have with us a representative of the French government, Mrs. Najat Vallaud-Belkacem. I had told you that everything usually went well, but there was a lot of suspense. You were able to see that. We had a few red lights, which finally became green. I would like to say how grateful Arianespace is for the robust support that France has granted for decades for our launchers and our European launcher Ariane through your ministry and also Minister Geneviève Fioraso, who works alongside you. And I would also like to say that on the eve of decisions which are very important for the future of the launcher, Arianespace supports the roadmap that is being defined by ESA, the industry and institutions. Ariane-6 is the path to follow for a double ambition, which is simple. Arianespace wants to remain the world leader in commercial space transport while guaranteeing Europe with an independent access to space. I have finished, and
beginning with Mr. Ken Lee. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I just got a word that we did get a telemetry, so spacecraft is healthy, and we acquired from Australia, so this is good. The Intelsat 30 DLA-1 mission is vital and very important to our customer and also our company. This is our first of 4 satellites that we will be launching in next 12 months. All 4 of these satellites will be providing service in Latin America. We are honored that our first of the 4 satellites hosted DLA-1 payload, providing service to our long-standing customer, DirecTV Latin America. DirecTV Latin America has been a great customer and partner for Intelsat since its formation in 1994. Our goal in this mission, as well as other services that we provide to DirecTV, is to earn the trust that they have placed on our company. Supporting their success in the region is a source of great pride at our company, and we wish them the best of luck in the coming months as they begin services on the DLA-1 payload. To the mission teams at Space Systems Loral and Arianespace, as usual, your professionalism and skill are impressive, and we enjoy working closely with you. I was going to say that boring launch campaign is always a good launch campaign, and so far it has been such an incredibly boring campaign until tonight. It was pretty exciting. So here's to success of our launch tonight, and we'll be back here next year for 2 more launches. Thank you very much.
Buenas noches a todos. En primer lugar, agradecer la presencia.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would first like to thank the Minister of Culture of France, as well as the Argentine Minister of Federal Planning and Secretary Norberto Werner, as well as the French Ambassador to Argentina, and the great team that has stood behind us. It is so important to us to have such a high-profile delegation at an event as important as this one, including members of parliament, deputies, senators, governors, mayors. It is very important to have you all here, and the officials of INVAP, with Horacio Osuna heading the delegation, as well as the authorities of CAF and the work team that was with us for Ariane. Thank you, Stefan, Tony. And we'd also like to especially thank the President of Argentina, Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, for putting trust in us for us to make this dream come true, this dream which is now a reality. But it started off as a dream after 7 years working on the project, over many hours of arduous teamwork. Today, ARSAT-1, the first Argentine telecommunications satellite, is in space. From now on, the ground station at Benavides will start its work putting the satellite into orbit, and we are beginning the 15 years useful life of the satellite. ARSAT-1 is a legacy for us and for future generations in Argentina. It is not the end of a project, but rather the beginning of a long story. During the 1990s, foreign and private hands took over the protection of orbital positions given to Argentina by the specialized UN agency. And since decisions were often made from a foreign perspective or mindset, much of our sovereignty was about to be lost. And following a decision of former President Nestor Kirchner in 2006, and under Minister De Vido, in charge of the planning ministry, telemetry came along. We have just received the information. We confirm the launch was successful. And following that political decision and a law of the Argentine Congress, ARSAT was created, and along with INVAP, also with the efforts of the national aeronautics and space agencies, the project began. Argentina has now joined this select group of countries that manufacture geostationary telecommunication satellites. And the evidence is not just what's going on now, which is part of it, the project, but also industry confirms this, and we got confirmation of this through the insurance policy on the satellite with truly record terms and conditions for a platform that had not yet been flown. So the project is being acknowledged, and we are receiving acknowledgement from all members of the community and of the satellite community. I think it would be in order to express our deep recognition to the teams of ARSAT, INVAP, and SEATSA for the work done. Work with a lot of passion and a sense of pride, as well as a spirit of collaboration and teamwork. This is a step that, due to the quality it exhibits, requires that we look towards more distant horizons with vast opportunities, so that no one will be tempted to take one step back. The challenge for next year is the second satellite, ARSAT-2, and we wish to reaffirm our commitment to policies for social inclusion and reduction of the digital divide. And this is also within the context of a national transformation process. Today is a special day, and the minister has said this. We are drawing the path towards a great satellite homeland as well. Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Madam Minister, Mr. Minister of Planning, Julio Devido, Mr. Ambassador of France to the Argentine Republic, governors, mayors, deputies from Argentina and France, our colleagues from ARSAT and INVAP, Matthias Bianchi, Mr. Osuna, authorities of ESA and of Arianespace, our new best friends, representatives of Intelsat, congratulations to you too from the bottom of our heart on this successful launch. And for all those of you joining us from Argentina, let me just say it is really difficult but also very pleasant to be here talking to you. I'm trying to keep my calm as much as possible, but it's very tough. You know, the emotion we felt a few minutes ago out there on the terrace, and the emotion we felt when ARSAT-1 put Argentina and Latin America higher and higher up in the sky, now in space. And today is a historical day for Argentina and Latin America. we won't grow tired of saying this. This can be compared to very few things in Argentine history, perhaps to the industrial development experience in the 1950s with the Atucha and Atucha-2 nuclear plants. But the possibilities opened up for the Argentine people by ARSAT-1, by this geostationary telecommunications satellite, which will make it possible for us to offer very good telecommunication services with social inclusion, designed from Argentina for Argentines and for all people in Argentina. This is very important, and I think today we see the blossoming of much of this large-scale political project undertaken in Argentina since 2003, first under former President Nestor Kirchner, who made the most difficult decision, which was to preserve national sovereignty and satellite sovereignty. So he didn't choose to lease a satellite or to purchase it. He decided to go along the toughest path, the hardest challenge in a way. He decided to put Argentina on a path that few countries have embarked upon, and today 1,300,000 work hours later, as part of something that's becoming a continuous state policy thanks to President Fernandez de Kirchner and to Minister Davido. I think this is something that is owned by all 40 million Argentines who made this possible, and it is just amazing, and I do hope that we will all be aware of how important this is for our country and for our region. Not just having reached this milestone, as Matthias pointed out, but also to sustain this over time. And we see this in French Guiana when we see the work of the European Space Agency, which for decades and decades has been working. And of course, although Arianespace is a commercial company, it is supported by the national states, and this is why having the French minister here is so important. Without the states, the countries behind these projects, the success we now see would not be possible. And we hope in Argentina this will be the first step of a state policy that will last for decades and decades. We hope that 30 years from now we won't have to look back in sadness at the way we look now, back in sadness at how Argentina used to manufacture airplanes 30 years ago. Just like France now can look back at Asterix, we hope we will be able to look back at ARSAT, and that we will take pride in science and technology, and that will become second nature to us. I'm convinced that this is the way for the Argentine people to continue to walk along. This is the country we've dreamt of, a fairer, more sovereign, and more free homeland. Thank you very much to you all. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry, I'll keep my remarks very brief. The previous speakers went into detail with regard to the technical, scientific, and technological significance of this event for my country. Madam Minister of Education of France, let me tell you, we are very much honored by your presence at this event, which is so significant for all of the Argentine people. Let me also say that we have received a very warm welcome here in French Guiana, and I would particularly also like to thank Stéphane Israël, the CEO of Arianespace, for all of the attention and care and efforts, and I would like to also, through him, congratulate all the officials of Ariane, and let me tell you, we are just impressed with all of the technical deployment we saw, not just when you launched Ariane-5 with our satellite and the Intelsat satellite, but let me say we were also pleasantly impressed. I think that's a way to put it, with the guided visit we had this morning, which made it possible for us to really grasp the enormity of the task we still have at hand, but we are also sure that we have embarked upon the path that you started back in the 1960s here. Let me also thank those who are joining me on this mission. First of all, the governors from the province of Entre Rios, Mr. Uribarri, and the governor of the province of Formosa, Mr. Ensfran. Argentina is a country that has a national essence, but it is a federal feeling that prevails, and this is something that history demands. This is something that I think has been clearly displayed through all of the efforts and contributions made most recently by Nestor Kirchner and Christina Kirchner. And the launch here today is the result of a state policy implemented by former President Kirchner in 2006 through the creation of ARSAT, which now bears its first important fruit. Aside from open television, which is very important for Argentina, I think this is a very important scientific and technological milestone for Argentina. Therefore, I would also like to thank all of the parties involved. I would like to start by INVAP, that built the satellite, but I would also like to again mention the satellite company that President Nestor Kirchner founded and that our current President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner continues to support. I would also like to thank all of the legislators who are with us, Mr. Santin and Porto, also the mayor of the city of Bariloche, which is a city you may also know as a tourist destination, but it is also the city where this satellite was built, which goes to show the federal spirit of President Cristina Kirchner's administration. The deputies and, of course, my friends Mr. Werner and Matthias Bianchi, who are our co-pilots along this road and as part of this work team conducted by the President and coordinated by us. I'm sure I'm leaving out someone, but we are very much thankful and grateful. I think the scientific and technological deployment of both ESA and specifically of Ariane, with whom we've worked on this project, these are all sources of great pride and satisfaction for us, and this gives us the certainty that Nestor Kirchner and Cristina Kirchner were absolutely right when they came up with this state policy, which is the path that France has been following for decades. So, Madam Minister, thank you again ever so much for joining us. We are truly honored by your presence at such an important event for all of the Argentine people. I would like to thank everyone, all of the Argentines who are with me, the Argentine companies, as well as the officials, the mayors representing major cities of Argentina, and also from the province of Buenos Aires, Mr. Patricio Musi Zurieta, and above all, let me wish you the best of success on future missions, and especially in the satellite sector, of course. Thank you very much.
Bien. Eh bien, Madame la Ministre, Monsieur le Ministre, Mesdames et Messieurs, après avoir eu l'honneur de vous accueillir cet après-midi ici au Centre spatial guyanais, l'un des quatre centres d'excellence du CNES, c'est pour moi un très grand plaisir de m'exprimer après ce nouveau lancement parfait auquel nous venons de participer et pouvoir dire qu'il s'agit du 62e succès d'affilée de notre lanceur est une immense satisfaction. Ceux qui étaient là en 2003, lorsque nous avons commencé cette série, le comprendront aisément. Je voudrais donc tout d'abord vous remercier, Madame la Ministre, pour nous faire l'honneur d'être avec nous aujourd'hui et nous témoigner ainsi tout l'intérêt que vous portez à nos activités. Cette base spatiale, vous l'avez découverte lorsque nous l'avons survolée ensemble, et vous venez de vivre ce qu'elle est capable de faire, le meilleur.
For our industry, you've visited our base and you've seen how extended was our site. This is the result of 40 years in investment of the member state of the European Space Agency, and among them France. France responsible for the smooth operation of the center through CNES, but also through other directions and services of the French state that I would like to thank today. And in this respect, Madam Minister, I would like, on behalf of the space community, to thank you for the ambitious and determined space policy that is conducted by your ministry.
Les États membres de l'Agence spatiale européenne, l'industrie spatiale européenne,
the European Space Agency, all those who prepared Ariane-5, the Guiana Space Center, and of course our customers, whom I came to know very well in when I had other responsibilities. I'd like to say that this space center is very important for the educational world, and education is extremely important. Many of our agents have been trained in Guyana, and therefore we can see once again that Guyana can rely on all the skills and competencies that we do require, from the technician to the engineer, all the skills that the Space Center requires. And it is thanks to the efforts and investments that we've made in the education system that this is possible today. And this is also through the partnership that has been developed by the CNES with the different institutions, in particular the academic community. For all these elements, for all these reasons, I'd say, Madam Minister, that your presence with us is highly appreciated, and it's an encouragement to go forward and higher. And it's an honor for me to give you the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Ministre.
Thank you very much. Ministers, ladies and gentlemen,
avec vous, toute la joie, toute l'émotion.
I do share with you the joy, the emotion that have been expressed by the previous speakers, and I'd like to say how much I was surprised to see professionals who've been working in this field for years and years. I've been surprised to see the emotion that they were expressing and the light in their eyes in the face of this extraordinary technical achievement. My congratulations first to the Arianespace teams, which are ever increasingly mobilized to respond to our institutional and commercial customers' needs. My congratulations also to the team of the Guyana Space Center. Their excellence is unanimously recognized, and when people mention Kourou, they immediately think to Ariane, to your everyone thinks of your professionalism and dedication, ladies and gentlemen, and your very numerous successes. Congratulations also to Intelsat and ARSAT for having chosen the European launcher. The demonstration that we've just witnessed fully justifies your decision, and I welcome this. I know that Intelsat has been placing its trust in Arianespace for years, even decades, and I would like to thank you on behalf of France, but I would like also to thank ARSAT. I understood that this was a very special moment, the very first telecommunications satellite that was built by yourselves, and it's a crucial moment which I'm happy to share with you, given the close links which have existed between our two countries. As you know, our respective history has long been based on fruitful exchanges and collaborations in the architectural domain, starting in the 19th century, in the field of arts and science as well. And we do not forget, we French people, that Joseph Kessel, one of our greatest writers of the 20th century, was born and raised in Argentina. And then came the commercial area, and France today is the third commercial partner of Argentina. We are very happy of the situation today. A new field of cooperation opens to us between our beautiful country and Europe. Space. We are delighted by this new development. This successful launch, the 62nd launch of Ariane, is a proof of the reliability of Ariane. And this reliability is not the result of pure chance. We owe that reliability to a policy of heavy and continuous investments over decades, which have made it possible to carry out and accumulate a unique expertise, an expertise that benefits customers throughout the world. Reliability. This reliability is also due to historic collaboration between the institutions, the industry, and the operator of the launcher of Arianespace. First, the agencies. The representatives of ESA, the European Space Agency, are present here with us. From the end of the 70s, ESA and the National Center of Space Research have been able to cooperate and to make the right decisions to develop a launching platform that is globally recognized and that meets the needs of all stakeholders. The industry, and among them Airbus Defence and Space and Safran and numerous other European companies involved in the production of the launcher. You have all been able over the years to meet the technological and industrial challenge that the development and production of Ariane represented to make it the best launcher in the world. Now the operator, Arianespace, with repeated successes over the 5 continents and tonight over the American continent. Once again, you have demonstrated that you were right in adapting to continuously in terms of competence and resources. I know that competition is fierce with the arrival of new players on the market, but I think that this competition can also be a source of opportunities, the opportunity for Europe to demonstrate the value added it can bring, in particular through the expertise and reliability of the services provided. As a proof, what you have achieved until now, and I will tell you, and I will say that Europe will be by your side in this world competition. The Ministerial Council of ESA, which met in Naples in 2012, opened the way to Ariane-6 in June. An agreement was reached by Airbus and Safran for the creation of a co-company. That was a key milestone towards an even more efficient industrial organization and governance. And a few weeks ago, a joint proposal of ESA and industry was submitted to the ministers in charge of space. This proposal dealt with 2 crucial aspects: the technical configuration of Ariane-6 and the relations between ESA and the industry. These are major milestones. I wanted to say that next December we'll have a very important meeting also, the ministerial meeting of the Council of ESA at Luxembourg, and we will discuss a major development program, an investment representing several billion euros that aim at developing an even more competitive launcher. Everything is done to this end. And, this is what I wanted to say on behalf of the French government. Our conviction, our commitment, Ariane-6 must enable Europe to continue leading the race in the global competition. Thanks to you all for your contribution.
Bien, merci infiniment pour toutes ces paroles.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to you all for your kind words. And of course, we have another 3 launches until the end of the year, with Vega on November 19th. And there'll be another Ariane 5 for our client, the Mistral, and for DirecTV. It'll be on December 4th. And there'll be a Soyuz for Orbital, which has already accomplished several missions. So 3 more missions until the end of the year. So all the best to you. Enjoy, and all the best. Thank you.
So we had scheduled a late afternoon launch, but went after dark. Visibility was just as spectacular. All's well that ends well. Over some final shots of a launch replay, perhaps, or not, doesn't matter, of Arianespace flight number 220. We'll say goodbye. There's the replay coming up. Ariane 5 has once again delivered 2 new satellites, beginning life Intelsat 30 and ARSAT-1, the 495th and 96th satellite lights launched by Ariane since its career began. 62 straight for Ariane 5, over 100 satellites delivered in that run. She keeps rolling. Next launch, as Stefan Israel said, next month, Vega on the 18th. We'll be here. Hope you will be too. Until then, Joshua Jampel, on behalf of everybody here at the Space Base, thank you for being with us. We hope you enjoyed it. We will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.